Hello and welcome, everybody. We'll be starting on the hour, but we thought we'd let you in. So many of you joining from all over the world. Give you a moment to join the room and settle in. Very warm welcome. All right. Well, the hour has struck and it's time to wake up your glutes, tone your abs, and get out of pain. My name is Julie Johnson. I'm a Gokhale method teacher based in Germany. I work very closely with Esther and our team, and I am very happy to welcome each and every one of you to our special workshop today. Toned abs, strong glutes. That's something all of us want, but sometimes we are not quite sure how to go about it. And perhaps some of you used to be active and have become less active because pain perhaps has got into the way of you doing activities that you love. And if that's the case, you're in the right place today. I would love for you to share in the chat where you're joining from. I know that we have people joining from different time zones and all sorts of places all over the world. And do you have activities that you used to do that you would love to get back to? And do also share what you hope to get from our session today. I'd love to read that. My colleague Harrison is here on the chat. My colleague Sabina, two Gokhale method teachers, are also here on the chat. And we'd love to hear where you're joining from, activities that perhaps you're not doing anymore, that you would love to get back to, and anything you'd love to take away from our workshop today. What do we have on the menu for you? We've broken up our workshop into these 4 sections. The first one is why you want to exercise with a J-spine. And if you're just thinking, I don't know what a J-spine is, don't worry, Esther's going to explain. The second section is going to be on abs. How do you actually get toned abs? What muscles are they, and what exercises are going to get you there, and what exercises are perhaps better avoided? The third section is on glutes. How do you find strong, attractive, functional glutes? Why is that important? And how are you going to get there? And at the end of the workshop, we have next steps. We have a fitness challenge starting on Wednesday we want to tell you about. And we also have a package of special offers to give you a way of getting started. So that's what we have in store for you over the next hour. I can see a lot of you writing in the chat, and I'm looking forward to reading that. Do engage actively with the chat, ask your questions. I want now to turn over to the first part, why you want to exercise with a J-spine. And I want to hand over to Esther Gokhale, the founder of the Gokhale method, who, thank goodness for all of us, was in a terrible state when she was in her mid to late 20s and found a way out of back pain, out of sciatica, that's helped not just me, tens of thousands of others get back to living a life which is enjoyable, where you can just get back to enjoying life and being active and not worrying about aches and pains all day long. So without further ado, Esther, I'd like you to take my place here. I'm going to spotlight you, and over to you to take us through the first 3 sections of this workshop.
Thank you, Julie. So Julie has already hinted at why it is we want to exercise with the J-spine. And that's because we don't want to get in trouble as we're improving our strength and improving our fitness and improving what we can do, our functionality. We don't want somewhere in that process, we are hobbled by having pulled muscles, by having degenerated discs. And in our company, we are step by step doing a pretty good job of establishing that a J spine correlates with not having problems, not having pain. And we have recently taken a survey of all of our students going through our online elements course, and it turns out 86% of them, that's a very high percentage, report that they can do more things in life, that they are not as restricted in their functionality. And right now, we have a randomized controlled trial happening at Stanford. The chief of physical medicine and rehab is the principal investigator on this trial. And to get his attention already, it takes a lot of evidence to get someone of his caliber's attention. So we have all kinds of other evidence that is highly suggestive that what we are teaching, which is how to get to a J spine, is a key ingredient in becoming pain-free and staying free. It's pain-free. So, and we have a lot of MDs. It's unusual. We have in the neighborhood of 500 physicians who have taken our courses in one form or other, and that is noteworthy in itself. And then, of course, there's the public that puts reviews on Google, and our rating is extremely high. And if you read through some of those reviews, it'll give you an idea of how strongly people feel about the benefits they've had. And so this is all pointing to the validity of working towards a J spine and maintaining it. Other place that is, it's not as high tier evidence as a randomized control trial, but the public speaks freely on Amazon and places like this. And if you look at the reviews about the book that is now out in a second edition as of September 1st, it's highly suggestive. So, what is this J spine that we are talking about and celebrating as being a breakthrough in becoming pain-free and staying pain-free? So when we say J, we don't mean a loopy J. What we're talking about is a calligraphy, stylized, modern kind of J with a big angle at L5S1 and then relatively little curve from there on up. And it's what you find in little kids. It's what you find in ancient statuary and paintings. And it's what you find in modern people from non-industrial cultures, so people alive today who are in parts of the world that are not as industrialized as modern Western society. So big angle, down low, not much curve elsewhere. And it used to be that we recognized this as normal. If you go back to ancient, or not very ancient, 100 years old textbooks or earlier, you find more of a J spine. And it's only in very modern textbooks that we have adopted this idea that the S spine is what a human spine should be or is naturally shaped as. And we think that's a paradigm problem. We have been stuck with this paradigm for about 100 years, and it is leading to furniture being designed poorly, directions being suboptimal, including in fitness and strength training, which is why we are doing this workshop to encourage you to take the next step of making your fitness routine and your strength training and your exercise regimen also include this J-spine paradigm. And there are many, many reasons. And I'm sure some of you have heard them in our other workshops. When you don't have that angle at L5S1, then your naturally wedge-shaped L5S1 disc is getting squished in the front. The contents are getting pushed back, dangerous direction, because this is where the nerve roots are. I've been there, done that, and I would like to spare as many of you as possible from those kind of really horrible circumstances. It's also, less obvious things are also at risk when you don't have a J-spine. With the J-spine, all of your weight-bearing bones are settled right on top of each other. You have the pubic bone right under all your pelvic organs, holding everything up just fine, no matter what your age. And I'm talking about your bladder and uterus if you're a woman. But for all genders, the rectum, there are problems like hemorrhoids, and, there's just the wrong kind of plumbing when we tuck our pelvis and have no support, not adequate support under all our pelvic organs. So there are many, and especially when you exercise and you're putting pressure into your abdominal cavity and maybe jumping or bouncing, all the more reason to protect from prolapse, urinary incontinence, and all kinds of problems. So in general, we want to be stronger. It's having a J-spine is sort of a basic foundational thing that we all need, but strength additionally helps with your balance, helps with your metabolic health. You have read about this, you have heard about this. It is true. There's just it's way better a life when you are a little stronger, in addition to having good alignment and architecture. And it's also true for functional things, like you want to be able to get up from a chair. You want to be able to travel without thinking about how the bed's going to be. You want to be able to recover faster. You want your brain function to be healthy and not be at particularly high risk of dementia and such. So there are many, many reasons to get strong, be strong. And today we're focusing on two very important sets of muscles that we would like to get stronger. And the first is our abs. Everybody knows that ab strength is extremely important. We don't use the word core in our methodology for the reason that core strength and the word core has been co-opted to mean a different collection or combination of muscles than we teach is important for abdominal strength. So we'd like to begin by asking you what sort of ab exercises you have been doing. And if you could write that in the chat, like what are some key exercises you do? And then we'll tell you some exercises that we teach. So for example, it's very important that you have strong, deep abdominal strength to prevent swaying your back. We'll explain that. And we'll also show you, this is one of our students who started with very weak, deep abdominal muscles. And you can see that it results in some sort of bulges that happen front and back. In fact, you can see all these sweater bulges. That has to do with compression, with losing height, and there not being enough space for the organs. And it's not as aesthetic as what she got from our basic training. You can see that just in the course of 6 lessons, she really toned her abs, much sleeker, taller. It's a different appearance. And even more importantly, it's a different level of functional health. So, back to our question. What have you been taught to do? Please write in the chat. And what do you think is the best abdominal exercise among those that you do? And why do you think abdominal exercise is so important? So if you could write a few things in the chat, Julie, if you can read
Yeah,
any.
let me give you a little bit of an overview of what we've got here. We've got hold in tummy, plank,
Oh,
dead bugs, bird dogs, Pallof pressed, crunches, leg lifts and waist twists, sit-ups and crunches, bridge, planks, sit-ups, bridges, planks, dead bug, lots of
okay.
dead bugs, lots of planks.
So
Uh,
that's really encouraging because those are more isometric exercises where you're holding your shape while you're creating challenges, which is how we teach. Um, it's very common for people to be taught crunches. It is the most common ab workout that people are taught. And we think that it's a big problem. We think crunches are well named. They actually crunch your discs and they crunch your nerves. And in fact, they've been outlawed by the Canadian Army. And if you're the US Army is phasing them out. If you have a back problem, you're not allowed to do crunches. So it is slowly being recognized as a problematic exercise, but in the lay population, it is the most common exercise that people do. And people who are into extreme versions of body fitness take this to an extreme extent. And you can see here the result, the kind of tuck. So it's all about rippled abs and the six pack and this can go really far. And those rectus abdominis muscles, their six-pack muscles, can get overworked and can result in a tuck and a rounding of the upper body, as you can see here. So they have, it's not just that it's not necessary, it's counterproductive. And the way people go about sit-ups and crunches, you can see over here, there's a lot of tucking in the pelvis. There's a lot of rounding of the upper back. And I could set the video, but there's no need. You get the idea. And there, she is really putting a lot of pressure on those muscles. This is a little article about the US Army phasing out crunches and sit-ups. And we commend, we are applaud that trend. So what is it we like to do in abdominal exercises? Well, we like mostly isometric exercises. You hold your shape. The torso is a really important part of your anatomy. It carries precious cargo. Most of the nerves that feed the arm arise somewhere in the spine. And um, and we don't want that part of your anatomy would be squished out of shape for every little rep you do or for every little daily activity you do. So we like to prepare you to maintain the shape of your torso as you're doing challenges. And that way, that carries over into everyday life. You will not be doing so much distortion, and it'll be more about holding the shape. And so, in my view, the most important ab exercise you could possibly do is the inner corset. So, in my book, that is chapter 5. And it's kind of like training your abs on the job. So, here we have a Portuguese porter, that profession used to be a whole profession, in the old days where people were carrying whole loads of fish from the fishing boats to the docks to the restaurant trucks. And here we have a descargador, professional. He grew up illiterate, barefoot, living by his body, and we can learn a lot from these people. You can see how he maintains his J spine, and you can see that he's doing something in his abs to hold up this weight, but it's not the usual tucking thing and a core strength thing that a lot of people are taught. And I would like to lead you in doing this because I consider this the most important thing you can do for ab strength. Now, it helps to begin with the healthy position. And what's that healthy position? We could describe it as a ready position, not quite as ready as tennis, but ready nevertheless. And what this position allows is a little tipping of the pelvis, especially if you have your legs open. Those are details you can learn in our courses. But for now, just have a little bit of give, a little bit of spring at your knees and your groin. And so you are a little bit ready, a little bit inclined. And now you could imagine that you are wading into an icy cold lake or ocean or swimming pool, and that water level is coming up, 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 and it's coming to here and it's freezing cold. So what would you do? You would shrink away from it, right? And you can see how my abdomen just changed its appearance and became more like the descargador's abdomen, a kind of greyhound look, where you have a little bit of indent right under the rib cage. And this area became a little sleeker and a little taller. I let go of my inner corset, and you can see that I settled to a shorter length. And now I'm going to imagine there's cold water and I'm shrinking and I'm getting taller and taller. And this is a rough first pass at what we consider the most important ab workout you can do. And when do you want to do this? Anytime you're doing weight training, that's going to be weights that go onto this part of your anatomy, including your spine. And you don't want to squish things, you don't want to damage things. So doing a little bit of inner corset as you're lifting weights, doing your biceps curls, whatever, very, very important. You also want to do it anytime you are doing everyday life stuff that is demanding. Maybe you have to run and catch a bus. Well, that's impact. Or you have to move boxes and you're distorting your shape a little bit. All the more reason to do the inner corset. So everybody together now, stand in a ready position, relax everything, and now imagine cold water, slender, taller, and that's a rough pass at doing the most important ab workout. Now, sometimes it's helpful to dissect these parts and do individual aspects of them. But doing the whole thing together, think of it like shapewear. That's become all the rage now. It's a little crazy what you see online. And this is example of it. You can wear all sorts of clothing to try to shape yourself. But this inner corset is like your natural shapewear, your built-in shapewear. So we're going to recommend that over this kind of shapewear. And doing natural things like dance and fitness. We have in our program, our daily program for exercising and boosting strength, every day we dance. And those kind of activities are huge, huge for developing your abs, your glutes, building strength and fitness. So, and the thing we're doing all day, every day is everyday life. Like you see this Brazilian vendor, and he's including his inner corset as he's putting up his the stuff he's selling. So this is what we'd loved for all of you to begin doing. These are the muscles that constitute the inner corset. It's the three deeper layers of abdominal muscles and the very deepest back muscles. And all together they form the inner corset. And you can dissect and work. Sometimes it's very worthwhile working on just one or other component of these. And here you can see in various examples. These are all from the back of my book, 8 Steps to a Pain-Free Back. And we have many exercises that help you isolate some ingredient of the inner corset so that you can get even more toned. And I'll just walk you through. Those of you who happen to have a pillow ready at hand, you can join me, but I'll just point out what it is that you want to pay attention to when you're doing these exercises. So very often people have been trained to send their belly buttons back towards the floor. I'm doing a technique we call stretch lying. And in our methodology, we don't send the belly button back because that tucks the pelvis and puts a lot of unhealthy pressure on our L5-S1 disc. What we send back is the rib cage, very different, and you can probably see it on me. So rib cage back, not belly button back. And there are more details that we guide people on every day in our programs. But once you've got that basis, then there are all kinds of challenges that we can create. It can be cycling in the air, it can be writing the alphabet with outstretched legs, whatever. You create challenge that suits your level so that you're upping your fitness level and not over challenging yourself and then arching your back or doing damage. So,
Esther, before we move on to the glutes, I've got a couple of questions for you from the chat. And we don't have long for questions because we've got so much material to cover today, but perhaps two questions that I've chosen that will be useful for people. We have one question. When I do the inner corset around the bra strap area in my back feels sore and hurts. That's quite a common thing for people to report. Do you want to say something about that?
yeah, I can very happily say something about it. It means you're doing the right thing because when we do the inner corset, we're making ourselves a little slenderer, a little bit taller. So all these long muscles of the back are getting stretched, and a lot of those fibers attach around the bra strap area. So it means you're successfully lengthening, but maybe you have to back off a little bit for now because we don't want to create inflammation. So you're doing the right thing, just back off a little.
Thank you. And what about Pilates roll-ups? Are they better than crunches?
Uh, it's a cost benefit analysis we want to do. So what are you getting from roll-ups? You're getting some stretch of the long back muscles, for example. And that can be valuable, but we have many good ways of stretching the back. We have stretch sitting, we have stretch lying, which I very roughly just demonstrated. We have using the inner corset, which stretches those muscles. And all of those ways have no downside. They're purely beneficial. The problem with roll-ups, and here we come the cost of doing that, is you are putting your discs under strain. Every place that's rounded, and you're, by definition, with no roll-up, you're rounding every single place, is being put under pressure in the worst possible direction. You're squishing the front of the discs, you're pushing the contents backwards, The nerve roots are right behind the discs, dangerous. So the cost benefit analysis is yes, you're getting a stretch in the muscles, but you're risking the health of your discs. And most people don't have pristine discs. So do we really want to put them under extra strain? I suggest not, especially since you can get that benefit of stretching in so many other ways. You know, I listed several, but there are also shearing ways, jazz reaches. There are many ways of getting healthy stretch with no damage and no risk.
Yeah, we were talking, Esther, weren't we, preparing for the workshop actually about my journey to the Gokhale method, and I'd given up yoga and I'd given up all my exercise classes precisely because of instructions of tucking my pelvis and doing sit-ups and roll-ups, and buying your book and learning the Gokhale method was what enabled me to get back to being active. So those of you that are watching that want to play golf, that want to go snowboarding, that want to get out of your back pain, paying attention to these different ways of doing things is really important. But Esther, I want to get out of your way because you and I love to talk about this stuff, but I know that you want to talk about the glutes. We'll take more questions later on.
Okay, so we're on to the next set of muscles that's extremely important for general fitness and health, and that would be your glutes. And here too, you've heard a lot of things about glute amnesia and not having a butt and things like that. So these things can be navigated. There's nothing fixed about not having a butt. It's very natural for us to have strong glutes. So the Ubang tribesmen here embody strong glute max, strong glute med, gluteus medius, strong glutes in general. And they are not only very attractive, but also very functional in more ways than most people suspect. And just to give you an example, a few more examples. So this is Kadi Sagnia, who was a long jumper for the Swedish team. And you can see now they have particularly strong glutes. And she's just finished a jump. That's why she's got sand all over her. And this is something that is extremely important. So we'd like you to take a moment and put in the chat, what have you been doing to train your glutes? Is there a favorite exercise? Tell us, please. And let's read a couple of them. So
Right.
I'll wait for Julie to tell me what people are saying. And while you're writing that, I'll go back to describing why it is that you want to have such strong glutes. So glutes are really important to get that hook of the J spine we were talking about. When you have toned glutes, it kind of pulls your behind you, and it creates a natural angle at L5S1. Other way to say that is it helps you antevert your pelvis. Now that protects your hip joint and protects you from compensatory curves up the spine. Strong glutes also externally rotate your legs, which then in turn lets your pelvis have room to settle and aligns your knees and your feet and so on. And glutes are your power muscle. That's the muscle you use to jump with, to leap with, to run with, even to walk with. That's the most basic thing that is part of our signature as human beings, as bipedal creatures. So let's hear about what sort of exercises people are doing before we go on to teach about glutes and teach you our favorite exercise for glute strength.
So in the chat, we've got a lot of answers, and I'm not going to cover every single one, but a lot of people suggest squats, Some
Scrap.
people some people are doing nothing and they're here to learn. A lot of
And
people,
they're smart for learning, knowing that.
very good, right? Bridges come up a lot.
Yes.
I read walking and even glide walking and glute squeezing whilst glide walking. Leg lifts, I want to learn. Chair pose and donkey kicks and wall sits are a
Okay,
small
and
selection of what people are doing. So
nice.
some of us are on a good track.
Yeah, really. So more about why you would like to do something like some of those that, so glutes give you balance. Like you can see the difference in someone who is actually actively using their glutes. We like our phrase, every step is a rep. Yeah. And that's what you get when you walk well. Whereas when you've got a tucked pelvis and you're not using your glutes and you're doing something else, usually the quads, as a compensation, then start losing balance, as you can see here. And also your upper body hunches. So there's a lot that goes wrong when you're not maintaining strong glutes. And it also doesn't look as nice as it could, right? And then people feel bad about this. They say things like, oh, well, I don't have a butt. And that is not true of anybody. We all have the same musculature. It's part of what makes us human. And she is not very well developed in her glutes because she's tucking her pelvis. So it's not in a position of mechanical advantage as she walks. And here you see even the most high tier celebrities. Here's Taylor Swift, and you can see that she had a very underdeveloped derriere. And she's been doing something, unfortunately, a bit of swaying to get her behind out behind her, and then probably a lot of workout on top. But we would love to teach Taylor more efficient, more effective ways of that don't damage her low back by sticking out the bum. Here's some other ways that people use this shapewear thing has become all a trend, and it's very exaggerated and contrived, and you don't need this. All you need to do is to learn a very um, normal like way of using your glutes. And so we're getting to that. But this is what it's going to look like. It's going to look more organic. It's going to be uh, not exaggerated and very aesthetic to have toned glutes that are not like contrived and exaggerated, but also not missing. And it will make you more functional. It'll make you feel better. Glutes are supposed to be our biggest muscle in our body. If we are working them, we are creating circulation all through our entire lower body. And there are a lot of glutes actually. So this is a little picture of glute max right under, it's right covering gluteus medius, that muscle is right under glute max. If you remove both those, then you see a whole bunch of little muscles that are you working to contributing in little ways to externally rotate the leg, to refine the way we use our legs and our gait. Gluteus medius, you have the piriformis muscle, very important. You have obturator internus, externus, the gemelli. There are a lot of glutes. And someone said they like to do bridges. One of the most common mistakes people use when they're doing glute strengthening is they go into swaying their backs. Yeah, and that scrunches up, it crunches the back. And this is not what we want. We are going to teach you a way of using the glutes that doesn't take the whole lumbar spine into a big sway. So go ahead and find something to support yourself on, like a chair or or a desk. And we're going to lean on this surface and recall the ready position that I showed earlier. See if you can do the ready position, leaning. And now you're going to turn one leg outwards. So if I show you a front view, that leg turns out. So your feet are making like an L. And this is a warm-up exercise, a way to connect your mind with your glutes, and specifically with glute med, very important little muscle, littler muscle than glute max, which covers the whole real estate, peeks out from in the upper outer quadrant of your glute. You're going to raise that leg back. You're going to not sway your back like this, okay? Don't sway. That's what that woman doing the bridge was doing. Maintain your back to be a good shape and just use your glutes to raise your leg in little pulses. So it's pulse, 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 and beware that you don't sway, okay? Maintain the integrity of your torso. And now let's go to the other side. You turn one leg out, you raise it back. So you could call this a fire hydrant exercise, dog peeing pose, whatever you like. Your hips stay level. We are not twisting the back. We're not arching the back. We're really limiting this to the glute med and the glutes in general. Yeah. So that is a really handy exercise to warm up this muscle, to connect it with your mind. The mind-muscle connection is very helpful in this, but I promised we would teach our favorite exercise for glute strengthening, and that is walking. So copy me, see how my body is in line with the back leg. And I'm doing kind of mini lunge. My front knee is bent, my back leg is straight, my bum is engaged. You can actually see I'm squeezing my bum here, and you see how it lifts. You want to do that. You want to find the muscle that lifts, and automatically a number of these muscles will be engaged, and you will not be very heavily on your front foot. Most of your weight will be on the back leg. And then you take the next step. It's like a little lunge, and a little lean forward is actually normal. When we're running, we lean even more. When we're walking, it's normal for us to be slightly inclined, but not very much. And we squeeze our glutes with every step, squeezing, 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 squeezing. So in this way, every step is a rep. And if we are doing our recommended walking every day, which is one of the few things that everybody agrees on, yeah, 5,000 reps a day on each side. Who can match that in an exercise regimen? So the exercises are really helpful to warm a muscle up, to connect it with your mind with that muscle, to push it in a very detailed way. But there's no substitute for the 5,000 reps that you get every day if you are walking right. And I'd like to take a minute. Do we have a minute, Julie, for us to give comments on people's walking in case we can see it?
Oh, the time is short. I've also got a lot of questions for you, so I don't quite know what we want to do. I also wanted to ask you a question about the piriformis and sciatica. What does that have to do with glutes and back pain? And then I have one about, I think those are perhaps more important at this stage, briefly.
Okay, let me make a comment about piriformis syndrome because it's very common. And I have my app open so that I can share and explain what's going on and why it's so important to be working your glutes with every step you take, your glute max, your glute med. Here's the glute max. If I take that away, you see more clearly glute med. Yeah, this is supposed to be the muscle that is included with every stride. But very often people don't use this muscle at all. It's way fast asleep. And then what happens is this muscle, piriformis, picks up the slack. It gets bulky. And very often the reason glute med isn't working is because we're tucking our pelvis and it's not in a position of mechanical advantage. And that same tuck puts piriformis in an awkward position as well. And that counts greatly because the sciatic nerve crosses right under piriformis. It comes from the inside of the spine and comes out to the outside right here. Let me take piriformis away and you can see it more clearly. This is where the sciatic nerve emerges from the pelvis and then runs down your buttock and onto the leg. And if you have gluteus medius underperforming, piriformis bulking up, you can see how you are at risk of pressing on your sciatic nerve, which at this moment is as thick as your thumb. It's the thickest, biggest nerve in your body. So very important to make sure that the glutes, the glute max and the glute med are doing their job and not sloughing off and letting piriformis take up too much of that responsibility.
Thanks for explaining that, Esther. I think that was something that's on a lot of people's mind. And another question that came up that I think is super important to take now and not at the extended Q&A at the end. One person asked, Lynn, is an anteverted pelvis the same as an anterior tilt? And
Okay.
related to that question is why do people then teach tucking the pelvis in Qigong and Tai Chi? So maybe this bottom part of the J, just another minute on that before we move on, I think would be really useful for people.
So the lay population and even the professional population doesn't make an adequate distinction between a properly anteverted pelvis, which happens just at L5S1, and forward pelvis, which happens wherever. So this would be called forward pelvis. But if your spine is not anteverted, but rather arched up higher with the pelvis angled to the ground, this is also called forward pelvis. And we agree that this is problematic, but this is really healthy. And so this nomenclature of forward pelvis without making any distinction about why it's forward and where the pivot is happening is not useful. This is something you want to aspire to. This is something you want to get away from in a hurry, first by taking care of the sway, righting yourself, and then creating curve in the right position in that order. So it's just a lack of granularity that encourages wrong practices and problems. So, and then why do people tuck their pelvis? Very often, professionals are faced with someone who comes in with the big sway. I mean, this used to be me, right? And now, if they don't know the whole shebang about J-spine, you can imagine they would be tempted into asking this person to tuck the pelvis. It's not really they, tuck the pelvis and tuck whatever to get rid of this sway. But the problem is this is not a very healthy position for the hip joint, for the L5S1 curve, for that particular disc, and also sets people up for head forward and so on. This is not healthy posture. So if someone comes up with the sway, we teach them, don't tuck the lower part of your body and the pelvis and so on, but rather learn to tuck your rib cage. That's what we teach. So again, it's a matter of really understanding which way is up and what the right ideal is. And if as long as people don't have this J-spine paradigm, they're kind of missing the North Star. They're missing which way to go. And sometimes this can lead to big problems.
For sure.
So, where are we? Are we?
I think perhaps what we'll do now, Esther, because I know some people only have an hour to spend with us, I'll move on and share next steps and special offers. I know there's some excitement around the fitness challenge and what that is. Let's go through that now, and then we'll take a little bit of time for some Q&A once we've done that, because there's some questions about which glute to squeeze, and I think that might, and a lot of other questions as well. You can have a look in the chat while I'm going through the questions and the special offers. All right, so let's move on to this final part of our workshop, and we will take some more of your questions, as many as we can, as we go through the next steps and special offers. A lot of you might be thinking, okay, this is kind of interesting. And I've realized I want to have curve at a particular place in my spine at L5S1, but not somewhere else. And I'm not quite sure if I'm doing this right, or I'm feeling this, or I'm feeling that. What I'd like to offer you today is a Gokhale consultation, a one-on-one session with a Gokhale method teacher to look at your individual situation, to get you started on your fitness journey, whether it's getting back to hiking, golfing, or just to managing your everyday life without pain that is limiting your capacity to enjoy life to the full. What we do in a consultation is that we look at images of your posture and we examine what the connection is between how you are moving and living in your body and any symptoms that you're experiencing. What we want to do at the Gokhale method is to address the root cause of your pain and discomfort, and not give you a set of exercises that you need to do every day for the rest of your life for them not to be there anymore. And we will open your eyes. I guarantee there are a lot of aha moments in the consultations that we give. Gosh, I never realized that my feet had something to do with my hips, had something to do with my shoulder position, etc., etc., etc. And then we can discuss what your next steps are. Esther, do you have anything to add about the consultation?
No, it's just they're usually very surprisingly eye-opening, and also give people hope, give people optimism about what's possible. And it's optimism based on logical reasoning. It's not just charismatic saying, this can get better. It'll make sense to you.
For sure. So the offer of a consultation with Esther, we have open for you. Esther will be traveling, in fact, to Europe. She'll be in my house next week, training teachers, and she's on holiday for a week. She's kindly offered to offer 10 slots in October of consultations despite her full schedule, but she only has 10 spots, and that's why the cost is not discounted for Esther, but if you're fast, you will be able to get one of those consultations. A consultation with Esther is particularly to be recommended if you have a very complex history or you want to benefit from Esther's 30 plus years of experience in working with people. But we want consultations to be accessible for all. And normally a GoKlay consultation with a GoKlay method teacher costs $160. if you book a consultation by Monday, the 6th tomorrow of October, by midnight, we can offer you a consultation for $99. And we have a range of teachers in a range of time zones with whom you can book. You can scan the link, and I'm sure my team will put the link to book also in the chat. Now, we have another bonus for you. This workshop has the theme of toned glutes and toned abs, and we've put together a fitness challenge just to get you started. I saw someone write in the chat, Esther, I don't know if you saw, that they'd love you to do a DVD with exercises because your DVD of demonstrating the techniques is so great. And I already replied to that person, we have something better. What we have is live teaching every single day of the week, 17 classes a week. And we want to give you a little taste of what our alumni are doing, and give you access to 5 days of fitness challenge. It runs from the 8th of October to over 5 days. And if you book a consultation by Monday, we will give you free access to our Gokhale Active program, where you can not only join this challenge either live at 10 a.m. Pacific each day, that is 7 p.m. in Europe, 1, I think, in Eastern Time, but you can also join all of our other fitness classes that we run during the week. And you're also very welcome, even if you're not an alumni as yet, to join the Q&A after the classes and listen in to the alumni asking questions, and you'll certainly learn from all of that. We also have, as part of the challenge, it's optional, but it's rather nice, an accountability sheet where you can just test yourself where you stand and see where you stand a week after the challenge and 30 days after the challenge if you keep going with your fitness journey. We'll also share the link to that. And yes, the link to sign up for the consultation for $99. Team, would someone share that in the chat? In fact, I see Julie's shared it. Maybe you just share it a couple of times over, Julie, because the questions are coming. Now, I want to point out, when you go to our website and you book, remember, we have teachers all over the world. Just as you are joining us from all over the world, we have teachers all over the world in different time zones. And when you book in your teacher's time zone. And you can see here, for instance, if you're booking with lovely Tegan in Australia, you see here Australian Eastern Daylight Time. If you have any doubt about what time an appointment is in your time zone, reach out to us, we'll help you. But be aware when you're booking that you're booking in your teacher's time zone, and we'll help you with that if you need. So if you book with me, for instance, you're booking in Central European time. If you book with Esther, you're booking in Pacific time, etc., etc. For those of you, and there won't be many of you, but some of you might be lucky enough to live close to a teacher, and might want to take a physical in-person consultation. So I'm just sharing a couple of slides of teachers which have agreed to offer the $99 consultation if you contact them by Monday midnight. These teachers based in the States, and here based also in Germany, the UK, Australia, are also offering discounted consultations. You can reach out to our customer support team to get in touch with them, or you can find them on our website and reach out to them. You need to reach out to them by Monday at midnight, and they'll offer you a $99 consultation. I want to just remind you, the exercises that we showed and many more are illustrated in Esther's book, 8 Steps to a Pain-Free Back. The new edition was launched on the 1st of September. And in the appendix, you'll see more of the exercises that Esther demonstrated today if you want to accelerate your posture journey. All right, I'm going to just quickly share the QR code with you because I know some of you are wanting to book. That's the QR code to book the $99 or the consultation with Esther. There are 10 of them on a first come, first serve basis. And if you want to have your consultation, by the end of October, that would be the link to book. All right. So I think I'll say that it's time to move on to part 4, which is Q&A. And if you have any questions, I'm going to bring Esther back on. I don't know how much longer Esther has. Oh, Esther, where did you go? I was trying to spotlight you and it didn't work. Oh, add spotlight. There we are.
I
Here
think
we
I
are.
am.
All right. If you would like to ask questions, feel free to. We'll also keep an eye on the chat. And
Madhu has her hand raised.
Yes, hi Esther. I
Hi,
wanted to ask
Madhu.
you, when you do the glute walking,
Yeah.
when you lift your foot up, do you press your heel down first and then the rest of your foot, or do you just put it all down at one time?
It depends on the terrain that you're walking on. So that's a detail we recommend postponing attention to until after you've learned basics like squeezing the glutes, and many other basics come ahead of the detail of which part of your foot lands first.
Okay.
Since you've asked, I'll just tell you roughly, when it's a friendly surface, it's natural for the heel to come down ever so slightly before the rest of the foot.
Yeah, yeah.
When it's a difficult surface, it's natural to slightly point and land on the forefoot and use additional muscle accommodation, right? So you can, like, if there was something pokey and something was not quite right, you have much more control over not
Right.
plonking down. So it depends on the terrain.
Okay. Thank you
Yeah,
so.
but recommended to postpone for later.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's hear from Claudia. Claudia Coleman. Uh, Hi. I can't hear you yet. You have to unmute yourself. Um, there's a little button on. Yes.
So when you talked about going into the cold water
Yes.
and you pulled up your this middle part and then you lowered your shoulders, is that just an exercise or is it a posture to maintain?
So it's something you want to do anytime your spine is stressed, whether it's from carrying a heavy load or from impact when you're running, leaping, from vibration, you happen to be on a tractor or in a bumpy bus, or you're changing the alignment of your torso. You want that background extra length. Okay, so those would be times in everyday life where you need that.
Okay.
We've come to recommend doing some small measure of that in the background as much as you can remember to do it and as much as you have the energy, not full throttle, but just 10 or 20% of what's possible, just because most people are showing up with not very much ab tone in recent years, with all the automation. We don't file files anymore and walk over to our filing cabinet. We just press a button. We don't roll our windows down anymore. We press another button. And so people are showing up with less and less ab tone. So we recommend doing something to make up for a lack of ab tone and then doing a whole bunch more depending on how challenging the task at hand is.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Let's hear from Diana.
I just to add on to that, a lot of people will say like lift the head when you're on your back to engage your muscles more and make the exercise more challenging. And you talked a lot about the pelvis, but I was wondering if you could talk about that added.
For
Uh,
sure. You can engage muscles, the rectus or other ab muscles, just by directing them we don't have to move at all. It's true that when you raise your body, you are forced to use them, but you don't have to go there. And there is some risk that you're slightly distorting or majorly distorting by leaving your head resting in your hands. That helps. And by resting one arm, so for example, if you're doing oblique crunches, by resting your one elbow on the ground and just coming up and leaving your whole head and neck rested in your hand, you can minimize strain to the neck. But you can learn to use these muscles without any movement at all. And if you're going to do it, then we suggest minimal movement and certainly not distortions within the spine. Thanks for helping that distinction come to bear. Let's hear from Anna Dave. You have to unmute yourself. This is one of lower left corner. Perfect.
I have it. Yes. Okay. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you very much. So for the power walk, obviously we are engaging our glutes no matter how we walk, right? So what you're asking is to do contracted some more, right? So it's an active contracting of the, I assume mostly the maximus, or
So it's not true that people are automatically using their glutes no matter how they walk. Some
okay.
people are getting stride length by engaging their quads and kind of reaching out with their legs rather than propelling themselves forward with the posterior chain. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Now, a really healthy natural stride includes not only glute max, but also glute med.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's a cascade of events that wants to happen.
Mhm.
And it, in the beginning, it's going to be needed to be directed by the brain. We're going to have to pay attention. And if it's not our habit to walk like that, it takes a lot of concentration in the beginning. But it is a natural way, and it's much easier to relearn a lost natural way than to learn something completely made up and contrived. So people learn it surprisingly quickly if they're well guided. So I don't know any other teacher that teaches walking or gait in as little time as we do. And part of why we succeed, I think, is because we're teaching what's actually natural. So at some point, you won't have to direct it with your mind. You need less and less direction. There's a feel, there's a look, there's a smoothness. We call it glide walking for a reason. It really does feel like like you're gliding along rather than lurching forward and then breaking your fall by sticking the leg out to stop the fall. So it's very precise. In the beginning, yes, your mind will be needed to direct this, but pretty soon it'll be phased out.
Okay, so there is more than just as I walk contracting here between
Absolutely. This is the
posture and
first baby step
Mhm.
towards walking well. And even this, I should have said, if anybody feels pain from doing this, which can happen if, for example, you have a tight psoas and you're arching your back. I say that because I saw you
Yes, when
slightly of arch. Yeah, you're like
Mhm.
squeezing your glutes, and the part that's giving is a higher place in your lumbar spine than the L5S1 juncture we would like to see, angled. But sometimes people give higher up, and this place is kind of stiff. So they squeeze their glutes and they're doing this. So you have to be careful. If anything hurts, what we tell our students is nature took millions of years to design pain to tell us stop. And
Mhm.
so we never ignore that. So if something hurts, by definition, it's problematic. And you need to understand why, what, and how to change it so that it won't hurt. And I'm not talking about a little muscle soreness that happens. We all know that phenomenon, and we know that that's a healthy thing. A muscle hasn't worked, it starts to work, it feels a bit sore. That's healthy, that's fine. But if there's pain from you arching your back the wrong way, then you need to stop and you need to learn other pieces. There are a lot of pieces in walking. Now, when babies first learn to walk, we see them. They don't just get it. They bumble around, they fall. We're not going to fall. We're not going to bumble around. But walking is a very complex cascade of events. We teach it very well, step by step. But this step that I taught today, as long as it doesn't hurt, can be a helpful first baby step towards not falling, having better balance, waking up the glutes. And yes, we definitely encourage everybody to learn more than that in walking.
Right. Okay, so a consultation would be very
Consultation
good. Yes.
is just helpful for people to understand what's going on in their bodies.
Right. Yes. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
I'm just jumping in here, Esther, to answer a question. There's lots of people asking, is a consultation in person? Is it online? And I just want to say,
Can be either.
exactly. Most of you will live too far away from a teacher and will therefore prefer to book your first contact with us as an online consultation. But we do have, all of our teachers will offer you a consultation, and the teachers that I showed you here are offering $99 consultations.
And it's important to understand how much can happen online. Like sometimes people feel like, oh, this couldn't possibly work online. Well, I used to be one of those people. I vetoed online everything, and COVID taught me better. It proved me wrong. And now I'm realizing, if you think of how a tennis coach teaches, they don't come and hold your hand. They see what's going on, and we can see really well in Zoom. And then they advise you based on that. And so it's not a compromise. It works extremely well. We recommend that if you're not near a teacher, that you do an online, and you won't be compromised by it. But if you have a teacher near you, of course, it's nice to have the presence of the teacher and the warmth of the teacher and the hands-on and so on. So you can't go wrong.
Exactly. So all of our teachers offer consultations, and the teachers that I showed are offering discounted consultations. So for instance, if you're in New York and you want an in-person consultation, you can go to our teacher there, Cynthia Rose. She offers consultations, but she offers them at the normal rate, not at the discounted rate. Next question, please.
From Lakman.
Hi, Esther. I've been following you for a while, and actually had paid a consultation which I haven't exercised as yet. But I'm doing a lot better in walking, sitting, and everything. What I'm recently having a serious problem with is that when I go to sleep at night, I do wake up a few times, going to the bathroom and all that. However, consistently for the last couple of months, I wake up with extreme pain in my waist, along my waistline and my glutes area, my buttocks.
Yeah.
And before I get out of bed, I have to do some stretching of my, actually, I guess my legs and muscles, the glutes and everything. I have to do something in order before I can get out of bed and function properly.
Okay.
So,
So it's while you're still in bed that you have that pain. It's not as you come out.
no, it's when I get up in the morning
Get up.
and
Okay.
start to, yeah, just getting up and going and coming back, I'm fine. But as soon as I get up, or after a long,
Wake
long
up.
night's sleep, I always have this severe pain.
So I'm going to suggest that when you book your consultation that you've already paid for,
Yeah.
we go over stretch lying because that could be
Okay.
tremendous relief. Yeah.
Mhm.
So obviously something is not right with your lying down position. I mean, it can sometimes be a reflection of what happened the previous day. And then at night, how muscles get sore, not
Right.
immediately, but sometimes later. Um,
Hmm.
but if it's happening systematically like this, that you wake up, then that suggests there's something not quite right about your lying down position, and we can advise you on that.
Okay.
The overarching principle, the most important piece is going to be to make sure you get enough length in your back. Because if something is squished, then the brain at night has very little recourse. It can ask you to toss and turn and look for something better, not necessarily successfully, or it can ask to stiffen up muscles to protect you from damage happening, which might be happening. And then you have to slowly unstiffen the muscles and stretch and so on before you can function. But we can check into that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to it.
Mhm.
Arbel.
It's pronounced bearable,
Bearable.
bearable,
Okay.
like a bear and a bull.
Okay.
Um, I've been having a problem with my right leg. I have bad posture. Some lumbar x-rays showed there is deterioration of the discs, but I don't have osteoporosis. I have osteopenia.
Okay.
And I have problems in my right leg, running down the hamstring, or it travels in different areas. Uh, I go for walks every day, and some days I'm fine. My leg is fine, and some days it's not at all. When you showed the walking right now, are your toes pointed forward, or are they at?
Slightly out, very little, about 5 degrees. When we stand, it's a little bit more, not parallel. When we make our feet parallel, or worse, when we toe in,
Yeah.
it disadvantages the glutes. Yeah. So to
Okay.
get the glutes to be, so when we turn out the legs, for example, gluteus medius can work more easily. And it works the other way around too. When we work glute med, it's an external rotator, especially in the second half of a stride. That's more technical than you need to know. But when you're walking, 5 degrees out is what you'd like. And it's
Okay.
interesting, when people say sometimes you have pain, sometimes you don't have pain. That tells us that you're not obliged to be in pain. It's not that you have an architecture that is genetic or owing to an accident or a certain kinds of degeneration that obliges you to just be in pain. It means that you have accessible to you an architecture that is pain-free. And now what's remaining that you haven't figured out is
Yeah.
what correlates with pain and what correlates with pain-free, and how to keep you not just out of pain, but quite far away from pain. You want to have a bit of a buffer. You don't want to just
Be right at the
crossing,
edge.
yeah, right at the edge, not secure, not good feeling. You want to understand the situation. That'll give you a lot of empowerment. And then you want to know what to do and prove it to yourself. That's like, wow,
Yeah.
when I
Yes.
do this, I see that it goes wrong, and when I do that, it goes right. And we have a lot to say about that. And that's the consultation will give you a very good understanding of
Yes, I
some
plan to
basics.
do one.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
40-minute consultation.
Yeah.
Lots of time, ahead of time, you will have already filled out your intake form. I will have already, or the teacher will have already read it completely. If it's an online thing, you've also submitted your photographs ahead of time. So we've already studied you even before the consultation begins, and gives
Yeah.
us a lot of time to help you understand your body. And then we might, in this case, we'll probably have you walk up and down and observe what you're doing, and then give you feedback on that, and then advise what steps you need to make to make that difference.
I do a 15-minute qigong before I go for a walk. And at one point, when you when you widen your legs shoulder width, you're supposed to tilt your
You
To
when
tuck your tail.
tuck, you mean tuck.
tuck, yes, and you have a string up there, and you
Yeah.
pull in the chin. Um, is that correct? Because someone mentioned that.
You know, you would benefit from uh, having exposure to our teacher that specializes in Qigong. And she will be able to explain it. Kathleen O'Donoghue can explain to you in great detail what she thinks the correct interpretation of preparing for a Qigong is.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I'll leave it to her to do that because that'll be much more fleshed out than
Yes.
something I can do in a minute today, right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, I missed a bunch of the beginning because I could
It's
not hear.
okay. You will have access to the replay, so no problem.
That's wonderful.
Well,
Thank
we'll
you so
send you the
very
replay
much.
link,
Thank you.
and
I really appreciate it.
I'll put a link in the chat as well for you of a blog post about Tai Chi, Qigong, tucking. That might also be interesting preliminary
Yes.
reading for you.
Yes.
So that's great.
Thank you
Esther,
so very much. Thank you.
we have a testimonial in the chat that I wanted to share about a consultation because it's so typical. Patricia Morris has written, after working with the book for 8 years, Claire Chapman, that's one of your oldest and most experienced teachers in Bristol, the UK, pointed out one thing in an online consultation from halfway around the world that I had totally missed, and it was transformational. So worth it. And it's so like that, isn't it? We somehow think we're reading the book and we understand things, and then students miss important details, don't they, all the time, even though the book is so well explained, right? And you put so much time and effort into explaining everything so well.
It's not easy to get kinesthetic things from a book, like whatever you've been doing for decades, or as my English partner says, decades, which
I
is
do
really
too.
fun. You say decades also. That feels normal. So some other way of doing it feels a little strange. And how are you going to go to something that feels really strange without a coach, without someone external pointing things out with logic, visual pointers, and intellectual arguments? So it's usually needed.
Having said that, Esther, maybe we should just say we made reference to your book and to the exercises. For any of you that haven't come across it, the new edition was launched on the 1st of September, and that QR code or just Amazon 8 Steps to a Pain-Free Back will take you to the page to buy it, or on our website you can also buy the book if you prefer to not buy it from Amazon, for any of you that would like to buy the book. Okay.
Well, we have that. Go ahead.
Thank you. Could you explain a little bit more about the squeezing of the glute when you're walking? Is it the back glute while you're moving your leg? Just like go over it a little bit more. Thank you.
Sure. So it's complex what really wants to happen. And it'll be TMI for most people if they don't have background in this. So it's glute max that engages first and first straightens out the leg and then keeps pulling back on that leg. Now that it's straight, there's no more straightening to be had. So that's what propels you forward. And then at the very end is when glute med kicks in to help you land softly. So there's a whole lot of phases that happen. And they happen better if your behind is a little bit behind, not from sticking it back, But from if you don't have a very distinct L5-S1 curve, then from leaning very slightly forward. And that's what enables all of those glute actions to happen. And there's a whole lot more detail than that, which will definitely be TMI. So I'll stop there. But as you can see, it's complex, but learnable. And what's good about our methodology is we figured out how to teach which step in what order to make it digestible, to make it land in your body. Our goal is that you be pain-free, that you be functional, that you be strong, that you be able to live your life, be available to life. That's our ultimate goal.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting, Esther, that the aesthetics of looking good, and we did a workshop last year, didn't we, about empowerment and how, once you're out of pain, and that's generally people's first motivation when they come to us, is that they have a lot of pain, and a lot of people are desperate and have tried absolutely everything out there. And I know you and I both know what it feels like to be very desperate and in a very bad way. But that once you've got that freedom back, you develop quite nice glutes and your abs and your belly. Somehow it's not about sucking it in anymore. And I don't know, we haven't actually said, have we, Esther, that healthy posture is actually really, really comfortable. Um, I sometimes use the word delicious to describe it.
Yeah, it's a coming home feeling at ease in your body and being able to count on it into the later decades of your life, and not having it complain, not in your sleep, not in the daytime, not having little niggles and naggles and aches and pains, and be held back by your body. Your body's there to serve you and to be in cahoots with you, to do mischief in life, have fun, and do it with vigor.
Yeah, totally, totally. There's still so many questions in the chat, Esther, but it's been 1.5 hours and it's midnight, 11 here, not midnight in Germany. So I think,
Julie is one dedicated member of our team.
well,
I think we should let you go.
yeah, I think there's just one last question. Will it help with feet? I mean, it helps from head to toe. I had a lot of foot problems. It helped plantar
I, I,
fasciitis.
I would rate feet the number 2 area that stands to gain after back. It's just because it's an area that we do so poorly with in modern Western approaches. For some reason, podiatrists don't often look at the way you stand and the way you walk, which is so obviously relevant. And we do. We help you restore your weight to where it belongs in your feet, to your very strong cross fiber construction heel. We help you leave it there as you walk. And by leaving it there, that facilitates the feet to do their job. Like if you're letting your weight go to the front of your foot, you're kind of mushing it out of shape and giving those muscles underneath no chance whatsoever to form arches and such. So it's, learning how to stand and walk are so relevant to foot health. So, yeah, I mean, my book could have been called 8 Steps to Pain-Free Feet, but we chose back because that's what more people have problems with than anything. But it's really about your whole structure. And so it behooves you, pun intended, to pay attention to all of these moving parts and the way you're living in your body.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
For sure.
Julie and I, we both need to go. I have a party to go to.
And I have a
In the
bed.
middle of the day, and you have a bed to go
I have
to.
a bed to go to. I prepared one final slide from a photo that was taken during the photo shoot from Esther's book when I was in California last year. We're so happy that you joined us today. I hope we gave you a taste of what is possible. And if this feels like a fit for you, if you feel you can benefit from our work, we are ready to work with you. As I said, Esther has 10 slots for consultations this month, and our team of teachers will help you, and our customer support team are available. Write them an email, info@gokhalemethod.com, or give them a call. If the lines are busy, it's because there's rather a lot of you, and we had a workshop for our alumni earlier today. Call, write to us, and we'll help you out. All right. Okay. Take care,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye-bye.